Welcome to Recruit Like You Sell, hosted by the author of The Unicorn Path and the world's most passionate advocate for enhancing employee productivity. Here is your guide, coach, founder, and host, Bart Dunne.
Hi there, my name is Bart Dunne, and this is the Recruit Like You Sell podcast. I got involved with Recruit Like You Sell, kind of by accident. I got out of college and I went to work as a CPA for one of the big firms, KPMG. And I don't know if you can imagine it, but it's not always interesting or great to be a CPA. There's a lot of tedious work. And so along the way in my journey, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen a lot of companies, I've worked with a lot of companies, and I've been with a lot of companies. I've been an exceptional employee. I've worked incredibly hard and very effectively. And I've also been a lousy employee. There was a time where I fell in love with my wife, and for about 6 months, all I wanted to do was see her, and I was a pretty lousy employee. I should have been fired. So along the way, but always I've watched, always I've paid attention, and always I've tried to figure out, hey, what's going on here? And, what I believe is that the employee-employer workplace relationship is broken. And it's not a new phenomenon. There's new things that we'll talk about, but it's not a new phenomenon. It's broken. It's been broken my whole career, 40 years, and I'm sure it's been broken longer than that. That Don Draper guy seems like he wasn't always working super hard. So it's a broken process, and I understand how to fix it. And it kind of starts with the overall mindset. I'm going to paraphrase George Carlin, which is risky because of his brilliance, but he says the average employer pays just enough so the employee doesn't quit, and the average employee works just hard enough so they don't get fired. This is a dynamic that's got to change. And the critical component of it is that you've got to do something about it. You've got to have a strategy. Recruit Like You Sell is the strategy that came out of this book that I wrote called The Unicorn Path. And we're implementing this strategy because we believe companies that walk the unicorn path and recruit like they sell can dominate the competition. They can build an incredible team. And for almost every business, the distinguishing characteristic, the single biggest competitive distinction is people. And so if we can get to the point where the company with the best people wins, or we call it in this book, I love shameless plug, got it on the right side, is the one with most unicorns wins. Today, I want to cover 3 topics. Number 1 is the why. And we'll get into that, but in general, I believe that any kind of major change, if you don't have a why, you're not going to get it done. Number 2 is just kind of an outline of what we do with Recruit Like You Sell, what our services are, what the process is. And then number 3, it's going to be about talking about my favorite employee benefit, which I'm going to tease you and make you wait for that. You're going to have, like 12, 14 more minutes. Oh, cliffhanger. So first of all, let's talk about why. I've always been competitive. I grew up, wanted to compete in everything. And then you get in kind of the workplace and, it's kind of competitive and you work hard, you figure it out. But it's not that big of a deal, and it's kind of an institutionalized environment. People, I read about employee disengagement. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but the Gallup poll, or Gallup company, it did a survey on employee disengagement, and it ebbs and flows from year to year. But in general, 70% of all employees are disengaged. That doesn't make them awful. So many of them are wonderful people. Many of them are skilled and smart, but disengaged in this context means they're just not that interested in what they're doing. They're not passionate about it. They're not looking to get better. And then 30% are engaged, which is good. It's much better to be happy and like what you do than not like what you do. But even that, I don't believe is quite enough. So what I believe and what we're showing in the Unicorn Path and our offering, Recruit Like You Sell, is that if you can solve that problem, if you can turn your 70% disengaged into 70% passionate high performers, we call them unicorns, you could dominate the competition. But people are deadlocked. They don't know how to do it. and they're up against this incredible obstacle called change. And if they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel passionate about change, they'll never do it. And so they need a big why. Get that big why, because it's going to be hard. You know, let's talk about business as usual. You've got an office, or you've got a company, and somebody leaves. Maybe they leave for a great reason. Maybe they're retiring, or maybe they're moving across country. But they leave, and then you go, oh, I dread recruiting. I just absolutely dread it. Okay, let's get this over with. That's no formula for high performance. And it's especially the case when you're looking at somebody that's pretty poor, a poor performer, and you go, you know what, they're pretty lousy, but I've got them here, and I hate recruiting, so I'm going to tolerate that. These are the characteristics that are leading to this poor performance, is 70% disengagement. And then I want you to visualize the alternative. I have the pleasure to work with outstanding people. I walk into my office and I grin. And when I leave, I think about what a pleasure it is to be working with outstanding people. People that are lifting me up, people that I'm contributing to their future, people that make me feel good, people that are passionate about excellence. But it doesn't just happen. You know, the concept of things just naturally fall into place rarely, if ever, do. I talk about naturals versus the trained, and my favorite example is MMA fighting. I've never been much of a fighter. I clearly don't look like I'm very good at it. I don't follow MMA very closely, but I have great admiration for the training and how adept they've become. And there's nothing that shows the difference between being a natural and being trained as well as MMA. If you're a poor fighter or poorly trained and you go into a ring, you're going to feel quite a bit of penalty immediately. You're going to get folded up like a pretzel. And in business, it's the same thing. The people that care, the people that train, the people that strategize will dramatically outperform the people that just kind of show up and hope everything works. And so the concept of, hey, I'm going to build an incredible team, there's no luck. It's a strategy. And if you don't eat, drink, and live that strategy, it's not going to happen. What we advocate, another shameless plug in the book, make building a great team your number one strategic initiative. And if it's not, you're in trouble. So get back to visualization. Think about all the great employees that you've worked with. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 5. And imagine it doubling and doubling and doubling again. And all of a sudden, most of your employees are outstanding. And most of your employees are high performers. And you've got a plan to elevate the rest or replace them. Politely, nicely, but to replace them. Imagine how much happier you're going to be. Imagine going on vacation when that phone rings, not cringing. Imagine knowing that your customers and your other employees are going to be taken care of remarkably because you're with people that are committed to being outstanding, committed to be, and the core of being outstanding is just being kind, being passionate, walking the path of excellence. So get your big why and start looking around and figuring out what it takes to decide why you want to break out of the mediocrity of poor performance, break out of the mediocrity of 70% disengaged, and imagine what your life's going to be like, and imagine what you'll do to your competitors. Because think about, most companies don't know how to do it. Most companies don't have a strategy to build a high-performance team, which Recruit Like You Sell is. Most companies just keep going along, doing what they're doing, and hoping for something better. And we all know that you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. And imagine all of a sudden your team gets more and more and more high performers, and your customers get happier and happier and happier, and everything grows and proliferates. You make more money, and what do you use the money for? Rewards, happiness, and one of my favorite things is crushing the competition. So you take that profit and you keep investing. and investing and investing. And ultimately that gap between you and the competition that was once here becomes here. Now, this is a podcast, so nobody knows what my hands did, but I'm also being filmed, so somebody out there is going to know. But it's you just widen that gap, and it's a fantastic, wonderful quality. Now let's talk about what Recruit Like You Sell, the elements of Recruit Like You Sell. You sit around, you go to those fancy strategic retreats. Everybody's got khakis and polo shirts, good smiles, great haircuts. Everybody's feeling really good, and they're, hey, what's our brand? Talking about what's our brand? Well, I think it's important. I think it's how your brand and how your product is perceived is crucial in terms of how customers buy your product. I'd like you to consider a brand for employee performance as well. What's your culture brand? How do you want people to know what your culture is and what your expectations are? And the bigger and stronger your brand is, the more high performers are going to gravitate your way. So we have a skilled marketing department at Recruit Like You Sell that works very hard on building that brand. And then we move it into lead generation. So, Recruit Like Sells lead generation, right? That's how you sell. Well, for us, it's candidate generation. And there's a lot of elements. There's no bad elements. The only bad thing is when you don't do enough. So, for instance, if you go, okay, oh gosh, I'm just on Indeed and I'm not getting anything, I don't know what else to do, you're just not doing enough. Our marketing department is passionately looking to every possible channel in order to get our clients the best people. Social media, we're very active in. LinkedIn, we're going to look at Indeed. We're going to look at targeted search. And targeted search is, my favorite term for targeted search. It's a little ear-cringing, but you know what? This is my podcast. I get to do it. Poaching. And poaching hits the ear kind of hard. But I have a different perspective. I believe that a company that doesn't do a great job of taking care of the people that work for them deserves to get the dickens poached out of them. I hate the idea of somebody that's an outstanding performer or somebody that wants to be an outstanding performer working in a place where they're not appreciated, where they don't get a chance to flourish. And so part of our marketing initiative and our lead generation is we're going to strip those high performers away from the people that aren't worthy, and we're going to get them to companies where they're going to have an opportunity to really make a difference and enjoy what they do. So from a lead generation side, we're going to take the ingenuity and the passion that most companies use for generating leads for sales, and we're going to use it for generating recruits. And then it gets simpler, but just something as simple as lead follow-ups. Okay, so you get a resume, and tradition says, okay, you wait for the pile to get so high. Here I am using my hand gestures again. So high, you wait for a pile to get so high, and then you start calling people, maybe a week after you get the resume, after you weed it through with some keyword searches and some other things. Well, that's not how you sell. When you get a lead, you're rewarded by how fast you get to the lead. And you also, what you owe to the lead is to not make assumptions. Now, there's going to be many, many candidates that won't be good, but get some facts before you rule them out. Don't let keywords take care of it. So what we advocate is we fast. The goal is 5 minutes from the time you get the lead, even if it comes at 10 o'clock at night, 5 minutes follow-up. We're going to let people know that they're special. Every second, from the second we know who they are, we're going to make them feel like the most important people in the world. Because that's who they will be if they ultimately come to the team. We'll make them feel that way until they aren't. And we're qualifying, we're always looking, just like in sales, but we're going to qualify until they aren't. And then we'll politely ask them to go work somewhere else. Now you get to the interview. So interview like you sell too. Recruit like you sell, interview like you sell. I've been involved in many, many interviews, both sides, interviewee, interviewer, and it's kind of more like a ape mating ritual. A lot of grunting and not very much passion, kind of flat. Hey, tell me about your last job. That's not selling. That's not making people feel special. And it's also the kind of questions you're looking for aren't giving you the answers that you need to determine are they going to be valuable for you. And so we're gonna revolutionize the interview process. We're gonna peer into their soul, and we're gonna get the right answers. Most of the time, it's interviewing is an imprecise science, but when we get the wrong answer, or when we think we get the right answers, we're gonna fire fast. We're gonna teach our clients how to fire fast. The old deal is hire slow, fire fast. I don't know. That's not recruit like you sell. I believe that every great candidate's in high demand. And if we wait and we wait and we wait, hire slow, we're going to hire the bad people. We're going to hire the people that people don't want. So we're going to move fast through the whole process with a system and with professionalism so that we'll get the right answers. And when people slip through the net, and it happens, we'll take care of that. A big part of what we do is in the interview process, when we're ready to make the offer, we'll tell them, hey, these are our standards. These are our rules. This is our culture. This is what we care about. And as long as you follow that, we're going to make this the best job you can be. But if you don't, we're going to try to drag you back in. But if you can't get you there, we're going to let you go. Is that okay? Because we have to protect our culture. And the answer is always yes, because it's the interview. Everybody says yes in interviews. Selling in the offer, we want to know where we stand. We want to have a great understanding of the process. We want to have a closing strategy because there's an opportunity to improve our conversion. We want to win by getting the right people. So we work and we install and we have a system for closing as well. And then the onboarding. So now all of a sudden you go, okay, well, hey, the sale's done. It is, but think about, from Recruit Like You Sell, think about your culture and your employee performance as your products. So you're not done. Because if you aren't committed to making, to enriching the lives of the people that you're going to hire, the star performers that you're going to hire, and you don't have a great path and you don't have a great culture, they're not going to stay. We don't work with companies that don't have that commitment. It's a waste of time for us. We'll come in, we'll fill them up with all kinds of fancy folks. Everybody will be exciting and smiling and happy. And then everybody goes. It just breaks. We're not doing it. If a company is not committed to having a high performance, outstanding, wonderful culture that enriches people, go figure out how to recruit like you sell on your own. So a big part of it too is think about the product development as the culture. We're going to help where necessary. Some companies already have great cultures. We're going to help them develop the culture. And the other part is that in terms of building outstanding performers, we can recruit them, but it's not easy to budge people away that are already, highly effective, highly experienced. We've got to build them as well. So also going to build a factory. So that's also part of our, Recruit Like You Sell offering. So together, it's an entire system that will obtain outstanding people, optimize their performance, and yes, crush the competition. Wow! Crush that competition. All right, so now let's go over and let's talk about point number 2. It's only 2 because, one was so very, very competitive. Well, actually, this is point number 3. Let's see. You've waited long enough. The single best benefit an employer can offer is happiness. And I hear all the time, hey, it's work. It's work. We don't need to be happy. 13 years as a CPA, a lot of tedious work. I had a lot of opportunities to be unhappy, but I was also happy. I was also happy several times. And so I believe that happiness, again, is the single most important worker benefit. It's more important than money. It's more important than medical benefits, more important than 401k. If you can commit to a happy environment and create a happy environment, you're going to win. The best people will stay there, and they will appreciate that environment. We've heard stories from some of our clients that they leave because they get a 50%. Employees leave because they get a 50% raise, and then they come back. Happiness matters. Now, I'm not saying money doesn't matter. If you're not paying people enough, if you're not respecting, if you're not treating them like an investment, they're not going to be happy. So you've got to pay properly, but you don't have to pay exorbitantly if you commit to the right kind of culture. Another thing about happiness, I like ping pong. I grew up playing a lot of ping pong and sleeping pods. I've been to like fancy high-tech places. I like to sleep. I'm a bed man rather than a pod man, a little nap pod thing. But I don't buy into the idea that making people happy doing something other than work, at work. Go play ping pong at home. Nap at home. I think the single best thing that we can do to make employees and make the team happy is to have a strategy. So again, you talk about natural versus trained. Have a system. The idea of, I'm happy or I'm not happy. I don't know. It's just a day. I believe you have to proactively reach out and decide to be happy. And I think that the single most important thing you can do in an office to make people happy is to surround them with people that are happy. And so the greatest gift that we can give somebody is to have them work next to somebody that cares about them. Have them work next to somebody that they can count on, that will help them, that will support them, that cares about their success and cares about their happiness. Because too often we just go, okay, well, hey, they've got this ability, but they're not that nice, they're not that kind, but hey, they can really do their thing. That's not a high-performance culture. That's a company that doesn't care about happiness. So it's the idea of if people aren't there to support the happiness of others and the success of others, they need to go work somewhere else. And if you're interested in talking to me any more about any of these items, you can call me, 602-703-5730. And I would be delighted to talk about Recruit Like You Sell. We're going to revolutionize the world. We're going to teach companies how to crush their competition by doing, in essence, what they've always been doing for sales, but just applying that in incredible perseverance and ingenuity to people rather than their product. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you for listening to Recruit Like You Sell with Bart Dunne. If you'd like to keep the business world propelling forward with high-achieving employees, please support the show by rating us on your favorite podcast player. Engage with us. If you have ideas or questions, send an email to foxden@recruitlikeyousell.com or visit our Foxden page at www.recruitlikeyousell.com. We'd love to talk about your question on the show. This has been a T-Door production. Music by DJ Freedom.